Hey YouTube! Well, I'm finally getting around to the deployment video. I'm basically just going to tell you guys what happened leading up to the deployment, and then, uh, the day of when we took him, and then how I've been feeling since. So, big thing was he had 10 days leave before he left for deployment. So we got to go to a water park, we got to go to some caverns, and we also got to do a lot of local stuff with him and I. We would have my mom watch the kids, or we would drop them off. And I have got to take these pins out of my hair, they're driving me nuts. So, yeah, so we really did get a lot of stuff we got to do a lot of stuff together before he left, and it was nice. It's always nice to have those moments together as a family or just as a couple, because you really do hang on to those things when your spouse is gone, or your spouse hangs on to it when he has to leave, or she. So it was really nice. I'm glad that they get the 10 days to do that with their families before they leave. It's pretty typical to get some time off right before a deployment. So anyway, so about a week leading up to the deployment, he started packing, and he would take all of his stuff. He took all of his stuff out to the sun porch where it's kind of closed off from the rest of the house so the girls wouldn't get into it, or the cats, because the cats like to get into everything. And so after we would put the girls to bed, he would go in there and he would pack. And at first I kind of stayed away, because if you've ever had someone deploy, whether it was like a parent or a spouse or a brother or sister, whatever, it's really hard to see that part, because it's just a reminder they're getting ready to leave. So I at first did stay away from him. I would occupy myself doing something while he packed this deployment, and really last deployment too, because I had Mia last deployment, and then this deployment I have Mia, Amelia, and I'm pregnant. So I'm very emotional. It's just been really hard. It was hard to see the packing. It was hard to see him go. It's hard to have him gone. Not to say that if you don't have kids it's not hard, because it is. I've been there too, without kids and him deploying, and that is especially hard too. They're just two different types of deployment. So I think with children, your heart is hurting for your children, and your heart is hurting for your spouse who is going to be away from your children. And my husband is very close to my daughters. He is, they are daddy's girls. So, it's tough to know that this is coming up. And anyway, so yeah, at first I did stay away from the packing, but then I would go out there on the sun porch, and I would sit with him and talk to him. So it was nice to have that time after the girls went to bed to kind of have, a little bit of time to ourselves just to talk. And so that took about a week of his time. He started packing a week out, because you have to meticulously pack. You have to roll things up really tight and get them in certain bags, and he was going to 2 different places, so we had to have specific things for this bag and specific things for that bag. So it was hard for him. Then, so that was about a week out. The night before he deployed, we went in together, and he read the girls their book, and after he was finished reading the books, he gave them what they called daddy dolls. My oldest daughter had one from the previous deployment that he made for her, but of course I was pregnant with Amelia the previous deployment, and he was going to come home before I had her, so he didn't make Amelia one. But he did put a new recording in Mia's, and he put a recording in Amelia's. They have little messages from him, very special messages, and he gave them and explained to them. Of course, Amelia didn't understand, but he explained to them what was going to happen next morning. We had to wake up early. Mommy was going to take Daddy up to base. They were going to come with me, and we were going to say goodbye, and it was very emotional. I did record it, but I don't know, you guys probably wouldn't be interested in watching that whole thing. But anyway, so he gave them the dolls, and it was just heartbreaking. We put them to bed, and you know, we had to get up really early the next morning because he had to be at base by 5:30. So we woke up really early. He got all of his stuff in the van, and last minute we woke up the girls. We went up to base. He is in the logistics department, so he had a lot of stuff that he had to do. We kind of stood back a lot so he could do some things. We did get out of the van and hang out with him for a few minutes, took a picture. I wanted to allow him to be able to work without, you know, having us there kind of to where he would feel like he would have to be with us because we were there and he was leaving. So we went ahead and said our goodbyes, and it was really tough. It was hard for me. I know it was hard for him. I tried not to get emotional. I tried not to cry, which, you know, that makes it worse when you try not to cry. But he needs to keep his head in the game, and I know that this is a particularly hard departure for him with his daughters, and so I tried really hard. I hope I did a good job. Anyway, we did end up leaving, and we all came home, Mia, Amelia, and myself, and we just crashed and went to sleep. I was told the next day that he made it to where he was going safely, and very soon after that, because his the unit that he's with, I guess, to make it simple, is kind of, they do what they're doing right now, and this is very different. Usually, you know, he goes to Afghanistan or something like that, and it's kind of simple to explain. You know, he's there because of what's going on in Afghanistan, but right now he is deals with any kind of crisis that goes on, like when they needed to get Americans out of the embassy. My husband's unit, that's what they did. My husband is a pilot, and you know, that's what his squadron does with the whole big all the squadrons that are with them. So that was kind of neat that he was involved in that, because we saw a lot of news and stuff on that. Anyway, so he has been gone for exactly 20 days. My daughter, I have set up 2 jars. I have a jar full of rocks of the amount of days that he is going to be gone, which I don't really know the amount of days specifically, but I just counted out 6 months, which is 182. And then I have a jar that we put a rock in every night right before we go to bed. My daughter does, so that she has a more concrete way of thinking about how long Daddy's been gone, and then she sees this jar and knows that the amount of rocks that are in that jar represent how many days he still has to be gone. So, and it's really more and more she's understanding what's going on. She has her days where she is very quiet, and she will come up with a question, you know, so when is Dad coming, you know, just little questions that a 4-year-old would ask. It's nothing, she's really deep for a 4-year-old, I'm starting to recognize in her, but just little questions like, the way my husband and I explained it to her why he had to leave was because other daddies needed to come home and see their children, that they had been gone for a long time, and it was their turn to come home and see their children, and daddy was going to replace them and all the daddies in his squadron that he works with. So she's wanting to know, when does he come back and see his children, and when do those daddies go back, and getting a little impatient 20 days in. So I've had my moments. I took the girls to church last Sunday. It was pouring down rain, and I had two girls on my, one on my hip, one holding her hand. I'm pregnant out to here, and it's pouring down rain. It feels like nobody's helping you, and you feel insignificant. And I was sitting in Sunday school by myself, and sitting in church by myself with all these people around me, and I was just lonely, and it was really hard for me not to cry, basically. And I'm hormonal, so it's really easy to get me upset. So I've been very emotional about it. My oldest daughter's been very emotional about it. My husband does get to FaceTime us a few times, so it's nice to hear from him and to see him. My girls get really excited every time he calls, and I get really excited. It's nice. So we do have some communication, and I guess that's about it. So that's pretty much the update of the deployment. I will make another one in a few weeks and let you guys know if anything has changed or any new things have gone on. I will talk to you soon. Bye.